Hi, and welcome to the Caterpillar Cross Stitch YouTube channel. My name's Ford from Son of a Stitch, and if you couldn't tell by looking at me, I really like dyeing things, and that includes dyeing my own custom cross-stitch fabric. Today I'm going to teach you a technique that I've used in the past to get a really cool, varied color, natural looking one, and it's called ice dyeing. I've got a couple of pieces of fabric that I have used ice dyeing in the past to create. If you take a look at these, you can see that they've got a really cool variegated effect to them. They're not just a single flat color, but they're still gentle enough that anything that I choose to stitch on them in a coordinating color will still show up really well. So I'm going to show you how I achieved this look. First thing we'll go over is the materials that we're going to need. So you're going to want to get a fairly deep baking tray of some kind or a baking dish, and then a wire rack that will fit inside of it. This is just a bread cooling rack that I've got. If the one that you're going to use is one that you actually cook with, make sure that you clean it before you do this. Then we're going to need some dye, of course. I've got these powder dyes that I just bought at my local craft store. They're relatively inexpensive. Haven't decided for sure which colors I'm going to use there, but I just wanted to have a few on hand for this. Then we're going to want to have some gloves because you tell yourself that you'll be careful and that you won't get any on you, but I promise that you will. So you're going to want some gloves for this. Otherwise, you're going to have evidence of your dyeing for weeks afterwards. And then, of course, we will need some ice, hence the name that is ice dyeing. So I'll show you how to use all of this, and then our prepped fabric. So I've got a couple of pieces here that I used my sewing machine to finish the edges of, and they're all ready to go. And it's also a really great idea to have some paper towels on hand in case of any minor spill. And now you want to pay attention to what kind of fabric you're using compared to what kind of dye you are using. This is the basic RIT dye, which is it's labeled as all-purpose. It's intended for organic-based fibers, such as cotton, linen, wool, and silk. If you're using synthetic, you'll want to get the dye that is labeled for synthetic. There are, of course, other and fancier ones out there. I chose this one because it's readily available and almost anybody can get it. And before we dig much further in, I want to remind you to join the Caterpillar Cross Stitch VIP Stitch Club. You'll get 10% off your first order, you'll get a digital download of our top 10 cross-stitching tips, and you'll get an ebook with 8 free PDF cross-stitch patterns in it. So hit the link down there in the description to get all of those great perks. Now our first step is that we're going to want to wet this fabric with cold or cool water. So I'm going to take this to the sink and do that, and then we'll proceed. Okay, now that we've gotten our fabric nice and wet, shaken off most of the loose water, it's going to be a little bit more pliable. So now all we want to do is try to scrunch it up in sort of an even and organic way. So I'm going to use slightly different techniques with these two different pieces so that we can see the different effects that those two techniques get. So just kind of scrunch it up into a ball a little bit. This one I'm going to grab in the middle and sort of twist it, and then scrunch it a little bit flat. Now all we really do is we take our ice and we pile it on top of there until it's thoroughly covered. If you've got any big chunks of ice, I would recommend breaking those up. We don't want really big chunks of ice on top of this because you'll wind up with uneven distribution. It's a little hard to do with a small piece of fabric. My fingers are so cold. Okay, now that we've got our fabric covered in some ice, we're just going to want to sprinkle some of our dye powder on there. I like to use two colors that will kind of complement each other as they blend in and out. You don't want to use colors that are from the opposite sides of the color wheel. Pink, plus green or purple plus green, for instance, will just meld together into a brown and you'll get kind of an unpleasant muddy look. So you'll want to use two cool colors or two warm colors, for instance, to keep a consistent colorway. So what I'm going to do for one of these, I'm going to use this green and this teal, I think. So I get kind of a cool blue-green blend. My fingers are still frozen solid. So you're going to want to cut open your dye powder packet. Tearing it open is likely to spill some, and it just takes one single grain of this dye to ruin your shirt. So be very careful. So I'm just going to take the dye packet and I'm going to very gently sprinkle some of it over the ice. I don't want this to be too even or too uneven, but I'm just going to kind of do it by feel and instinct. There's not really any way to do this wrong. While that's going, I want to take just a second again to extol the virtues of the Caterpillar cross-stitch community. I highly recommend joining the Facebook group and following the Instagram because there's just an amazing supportive community of stitchers that has grown up around the brand, and it's a really valuable asset to have in your life if you want to become a cross-stitcher or if you want to level up your stitching game. Okay, then it's very careful. Put that back in the box and put that box in a resealable plastic bag, because otherwise you're going to get this on something later and you're going to regret it. Now I'll open up my second color. Now all I have to do is wait for that ice to melt, but I'm going to do my other colorway on my other fabric first. I'm thinking green and yellow. No, let's do something really different. Let's do purple and pink. Okay, I'm going to go put away my dyes to make sure I don't have an accident with them later. For me, I got to wait a couple hours while this melts. You just get to watch a brief little time lapse. Hopefully it'll look pretty cool. If you like what I'm doing or if you've learned anything from any of my videos, take the time from this time lapse to show me a little love. Like the video, leave a comment, and especially subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Alright, now that we've given that ice some time to melt, we can go ahead and unscrunch our fabric and take a look at our results. Let's get some gloves on here. I've had one too many very dyed fingernail for my lifetime already. So let's open up the green one first. We've got some slightly dark spots here. And we can mitigate those by, prior to heat setting the dye, using some soap and water to wash those out a little bit, because this dye is not really set into this fabric yet. We can also just rinse it out as it is right now, and it will actually get quite a bit lighter than it is now because we haven't heat set this dye. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to rinse these darker spots a bit and bring those sort of in line with the rest of it a little bit. Now let's take a look at the purple one. Now we've got some kind of light spots here. I looked at it a little bit before I started the camera and I had some really light spots, and I just grabbed some of my ice melt and added that into it. We can also take some of the darker spots and kind of rub them onto the lighter spots. But ice dyeing is not a technique to use if you're a control freak, because you're not going to be able to control every aspect of it, and that kind of random natural variation is part of what we're going for here. So we don't want to be too fastidious about it. Now, I would not normally recommend combining two different colors in a single batch like I've done. You're going to wind up with cross-contamination. You might have seen I got a little bit of purple on my green one, so you want to be careful about that. Also, this is going to wind up quite a bit lighter in the end than it looks now, because one, some of this is going to wash out even if we set the dye, and two, the lighter things look darker when they're wet. So it'll look lighter when it's dry. So I'm actually relatively happy with the purple one. I'm just going to rinse that as is. But with the green one, I'm going to use some hot water to try, and some soap to try to tone down those darkest spots and even it out just a little bit. So I'll come back when I'm done with that. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got. You can see that these wound up being quite a bit lighter than they were before I took them into rinse, and that a lot more of the pink wound up being visible. So they were feeling a little bit dark to me right after the ice had melted. So what I did is I rinsed them first, and in the case of the purple one I rinsed in cold water, and in the case of the green one it had especially some dark spots, so I rinsed those with hot water and even soaped them up first. Then once they were closer to the range that I wanted them, I put them in a plastic bag and I microwaved them for about a minute each. The heat sets the dye, and so then after that was done I let them cool down a little bit. Careful when you get them out because they will be really hot. And then I rinsed them again until the water ran clear. And then I just dried them with a hairdryer, although normally I would dry them with an iron. Just my iron is broken at the moment. So I used a hairdryer to dry those out. And I'm quite happy with the result. I'm very excited to come up with a project for these. You'll probably also notice that there's a fairly significant difference in some places between one side of the fabric and the other. So when you're picking a project for the fabric, you can look at both sides because they will be a little bit different. But all in all, I'm really, really happy with the result. A lot of people are scared to try dyeing their own fabric because it seems really intimidating. But these commercial off-the-shelf dyes that, like, you can literally buy these in the grocery store in a lot of places. They're so, so easy to use, especially with cotton, because they're ready to go straight out of the box. If you're working with wool or with silk, you'll want to add some vinegar to it to make it more acidic so that it'll bind better with the fibers. But for your best brands of Aida, like Charles Craft and Zweigart, they're just ready to go. And so there's not really a wrong way to do it. It's fairly inexpensive for the materials. It's really fun to experiment with. Don't be afraid of and intimidated by it. It's really, really easy and fun to do. I strongly suggest trying it. Have you done ice dyeing? How did it turn out for you? Or if you try my method, I'd love to know how it turns out. Hit the comments down below. Likewise, if you have some other topic you'd like to see me cover on the channel in the future, put that in the comments and I'll see if I can get around to it. Other than that, I do want to thank you so much for watching. For Caterpillar Cross Stitch, my name is Ford, and I will see you next time. Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you, Caramel.
Hi, have you heard about Love It Stitch It yet? You can design and shop the cross stitch patterns you've always wanted. Love It Stitch It is an easy to use design tool and exclusive cross stitch marketplace, giving you the freedom to create, sell and shop all in one place. You can design anything that you like, add text, upload and convert pictures and artwork. You can design the cross stitch patterns of your dream. You can download them for personal use, or you can upload them onto the marketplace, designed by cross stitchers for cross stitchers, jam-packed with some gorgeous cross stitch patterns from designers all over the world. If you're not interested in designing or selling, that's totally fine too. Just visit the marketplace and you can shop from hundreds of beautiful cross stitch patterns so you can pick your next project. Are you already a cross stitch designer, but maybe you're fed up of other marketplaces, maybe not getting the sales that you deserve, maybe not getting your patterns seen as much as you'd like? Then let us help. You can easily register for free and get uploading your PDF patterns with absolutely no fees whatsoever. Let us then market your gorgeous designs that you've put all of your work into to over 185,000 dedicated cross stitchers from all over the world. We will absolutely do our best to get your patterns seen and into the right hands of people that we know will absolutely love stitching them. As a designer, you can easily list your PDF patterns for sale, no matter which software you use to design them. Our job is to make cross-stitch design accessible to all. There's nothing to upgrade, there's nothing to download. It's really easy to use and beginner friendly. We also wanted to create the marketplace to bring sellers and buyers together so that it's really easy and such an enjoyable experience to shop all of the high quality verified designs on the platform, but also to give those amazing designers a place to really showcase their creativity. So visit loveitstitchit.com today and register for free. Stitch what you love and free your creativity.